All right, so that right there just shows you the ripple effect of social distancing and what just happens if you and I simply follow instructions. It's all about simply washing your hands and keeping and obtaining that social distance. All right, as promised before we took that short commercial break, we want to now take you to Johannesburg, South Africa. We're talking to Oliver Churchill. He is a student, a Kenyan student from there, just to have an idea of what's happening there. Let me set the stage for you. Yesterday, the COVID cases in South Africa were standing at around 402. This morning, that is now standing at 544. The president, Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, has decided that the country will go on a total lockdown beginning tomorrow, Thursday. This is Oliver Churchill, a student all the way in Johannesburg, South Africa. Oliver, it's great to speak to you this morning. Perhaps we can begin with, what's the atmosphere like in Johannesburg? Are people on the streets? Are streets quiet? Is it just a dead city?
Hey, morning, Zinzi. I'd say it's business as usual, up to where possible. People are still moving around. There are some quieter streets, some streets where you would expect a lot of movement. There's a lot less movement. And yeah, it's still business as usual. It's just there's a lot more. I'd say it's a lot less busy or a lot more quiet than it usually would be.
Here's the thing. Now that the South African president said that beginning Thursday, it's going to be a complete lockdown, how did how did South Africans in general take that announcement that came yesterday?
Well, having seen what's been happening around the world, I think it was really something people welcomed. People were really were waiting on the government to take that step, because I'd say people did want to begin the social distancing themselves, but also needed the government's directives and the government's input to be able to take leave off work, such things where you don't really have control, but you understand that you need to not go to work, but you can't just stop. You need the government's backing, so to speak. So it was a move that was widely welcomed, and I think. Have I answered your question? Do you need any more info?
Very true. Now, here's the thing, Oliver. What about the panic buying? The combis at the local matatus. What is sort of the lifestyle like right now? Even for you, how often are you being able to stay where you are? How often are you able to leave the room or where you are staying?
Now, the movement isn't really restricted, especially for those who really need to get to work. A huge part of the population relies on public transport. So certain things like the matatus or combis, as you refer to them, they don't really stop. And because of the government's preparedness or willingness to provide the relevant hygiene steps or the relevant hygiene things such as hand sanitizer and all of those.
Right.
People were still able to move around, although you would, for example, the Gautrain. I think you know the Gautrain, which is the local speed train.
Yes, the Gautrain train. Yes.
Yes, yeah. It is still operating. I'd say there's a lot less use of it for non-essential movement, as you would have previously seen people taking the Gautrain to go to a mall or to travel between Johannesburg and Pretoria.
Right. Was there panic buying in the local supermarkets, whether it's ShopRite, Pick n Pay, after the announcement came, when South Africa confirmed its first case?
Yes, there has been quite a lot of that, especially for the hygiene goods, the hand sanitizers and such. Recently, I'd say just before the most recent lockdown announcement, there was quite some panic buying for certain household essentials and foods, especially bread. Bread sold out quite quickly. Yeah.
So, Oliver, where you are, have you heard from the Kenyan embassy?
The Kenyan embassy has its own. Well, they do a lot of their communication via their website. So just visiting the Kenyan embassy website, they notify you what steps they're taking. At the moment, I think they will be closed. They have had a lot less services being offered to Kenyan citizens for the non-essential moves. But for those who really wanted to maybe go back home or just to hear from the embassy, they were willing to answer questions, and they provided an email address and such.
Was coming back home an option for you? Were you thinking of coming back home?
For who, me? Oh,
yes.
No. Unfortunately, I'm a bit tied down here. So, yeah.
Talk to me about how perhaps your education, how school has changed. Are you still able to go through your classes? What's happening on that front?
Well, I'm attached to the University of Johannesburg, and our chancellor initially they had taken steps where they were providing hand sanitation at every entrance, cleaning the biometric access points. Then after that, they totally did away with the biometric access. And then just recently, with the government's directive, they've also reduced any contact lessons, especially for the undergraduate students. So postgraduate students are still going just for the few classes that they can, because a lot of them are, especially for my department, I'm in psychology. Their classes are quite small, so they still do have a few classes, but those will be postponed. Actually, no. Those ended just before the announcement recently because of the recess.
Oliver, perhaps my last question. Have you been able to talk to other Kenyans in South Africa beyond Johannesburg, and what are you able to hear?
Yes. Although I don't have that many contacts outside Johannesburg, people are still going on with their lives as much as possible. Given the situation, it's not the end of the world. It's just steps that we need to take. So it's kind of understandable. People are understanding why they need to reduce their movement. So yeah, it's people are taking it well at the moment.
All right, thank you so much, Churchill. All right,
no problem.
That is Oliver Churchill. Oliver Churchill is a Kenyan student living in Johannesburg, South Africa, just giving us an idea, painting for us an image of what life is like in South Africa. The cases yesterday were 402. Today it's standing at 544. The president has declared that from tomorrow, South Africa will be on a lockdown.